p.m., August 1st, 2024. First up is the approval of the minutes of 7/11/2024. Do any of the commission members have any edits, modifications?
Yeah, they're good.
Agreed.
They're all good. Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the and approve the minutes of 7/11/2024?
So moved.
Here, a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Quasimodo.
Abstain.
Perfect.
Okay, first up is public hearing, 7 p.m. Request for determination of applicability. 46 Flag Road, map 33, lot 29, installation of a shed. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southport Wetlands Bylaw, the Southport Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will conduct a request for determination of applicability for a project located at 46 Flag Road, map 33, lot 29, for the applicant and owner, Luke Warner. The project description is the installation of a shed.
Yes, so we have the applicant and the homeowner here in case you guys have any questions. But ultimately, there is a placement of a shed in the existing lawn area outside of the 20-foot. This property is on the corner of Flag and Eastbrook Farm Lane. I can bring up the plan if you want, but it's pretty kind of basic what the aerial is and where the general location of the shed is going. It's kind of adjacent to a pool. Location makes pretty good sense, I'd say. If you have any questions for Luke, I'd say, but I ultimately is my recommendation would be a negative determination.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Any questions, comments from the board? No. So in agreement with Melissa's assessment?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we hear a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for 46 Flag Road application?
Make the motion, just conditioned on the installation of erosion controls as recommended by Melissa.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Quasimodo.
Yes.
All right, Luke, that's good news. So I will sign up on the building permit and that will make it over to the next step. So you should be good to go.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, we have 8 minutes to the next hearing, so can we jump down to new and or continued business on number 3?
Absolutely.
So this is request, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, this is, yeah, request for certificate of compliance for 120 Turnpike Road. So this we did send to Lucas. This was for the garage that they were going to be placing. Ultimately, I think we know that that wasn't done. So I think Joe and I have discussed it a little bit in terms of what we should do and next steps. Definitely not issuing a certificate of compliance as of yet. They did also request a complete, which Joe and I are kind of in agreement that isn't the right box to check. We should do a partial and an invalid because the majority of the project was not constructed. And then the findings at the end would list out what was and wasn't, much like we did for the partial. So essentially, you know, they submitted, we put it on the agenda, but ultimately kind of waiting until we get this 40B permitted and the land donation has been completed.
Okay. So on hold for now.
On hold. So this, as long as you guys are okay, sorry, my pen keeps dying. I'll take this off the agenda until such a time that we are done with permitting or close to that we can discuss more.
Okay, any discussion?
No, but I agree with Melissa's recommendation that we hold off on issuing a partial COC in any way until the land donation is complete also.
Okay. Seems like the right thing to do. Okay.
And it follows I also told them it follows what we've done for like Ken's and even for like Turnpike Road, which we're doing now. So it's not
Yes.
uncommon, etc.
Okay, agreed. Okay, number 4, request for certificate of compliance for 4 and 6 Dairy Farm Lane.
Sure. If you don't mind, I could move Vito over since he's our next hearing too and our next 2 COCs. Just in
Okay,
case you
sure.
have questions.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let him load in for a second. Hopefully he's on, but essentially 4 and 6. 4, there was a leaf pile that needs to be removed that they've notified the homeowner. So that is in the works. And then 6, it seems like the new homeowner had been doing some work that they weren't aware of. So they're going back to the applicant slash homeowner to rectify that. And Vito, I don't know if you had anything else on 6 regarding that extra work.
Nope, I did talk to Bob Torsia today, and we're gonna go out and survey in that fence. And I think that was, and then look at the foundation drain, to see if we could uncover that and make sure it wasn't buried. And then after we get that, we'll resubmit the plans and, you know, kind of come back with I think the site itself, I guess I haven't been out there in the past couple days, but I guess he said it was stabilized now. As far as the area in the buffer. So that's good.
Yeah, we can do what we did for the last ones, Vito. When you're ready, just give me a call and we can go out and double check.
Okay,
All right, so we're going to continue that request as well. Any questions from board members? No, all right. Well, that took a whole minute, so.
it was, did you already, when I was joining in, did you already talk about the other lot?
4, just quickly with the leaf pile or the debris.
Oh, okay.
Was there anything else or?
No, I think that was it. I must have missed it when I was switching over to panelists.
Yeah.
That's- Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, through the chair, just to clarify, those are pretty small piles, or they're not anything big, relatively minor.
Okay.
That's for number 4?
Both 4 and 6 have small piles at the edge of the tree line.
Okay. So we're going to continue to both of them?
Yep.
All right, good, got it, okay. So maybe one more, number 5 Corderville Road.
Yes, so Joe also did a review of this one. The erosion controls were still in place when he did the inspection and the foundation drain wasn't on the plan. So since then, erosion controls have been removed. I checked them out. Everything looks great. Vito sent over a new plan with the foundation plan on it. And I did verify with the builder that at this time they're not moving forward with the fence. That was for a potential buyer that is no longer interested. So I walked them through if that's something they want to do in the future, what that process would be. But otherwise, I at least think, unless Joe thinks otherwise, we had everything that satisfied the comments, and there was no visible erosion. Oh, and they had verified the change in the river birch with me prior. So we checked with the landscapers to make sure it was appropriate for that location, since it was a little bit up gradient, a little bit drier, and they said it would be just fine. So that was approved.
Okay. So this one we're looking good on.
This one we're good on.
All right. Any questions from the board members on this one?
Nope.
Nope. All right, so do I hear a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 5 Corderville Road?
So moved.
Here a second.
Second,
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes.
And 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think we can do anything in 30 seconds, although we're really good.
I can say we will also continue 10 Overlook since Board of Health had some issues with the grading and Joe still needs to go out. So there you go. Did it. Now it's 7:10.
All right, we'll officially do that in a minute or two. All right, 7:10, notice of intent. 34 Central Street in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40. The Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 7:10 PM via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider notice of intent for project located at 34 Central Street, map 47, lot 58. The applicant and owner, Lauren Ritchie and Scott Miller. The project description is the construction of an addition in the location of an existing deck.
Okay.
Is this Vito again?
Yep. I'm gonna share the screen quick. All right. For the record, Vito Colonna, Cornerstone Engineering. Okay, so we are at 34 Central Street. The railroad tracks cross right in front of the house. The playground is kind of across the street, down off to the plan lower left corner. So we're in between, Learned Street is in the back over here. And there's two wetlands, one on each side of the property. One of them runs along the railroad tracks and goes to a culvert under the driveway under the road and onto the reservoir. And then this wetland also flows along Learned Street and eventually gets towards the reservoir too. The 100-foot buffer zones overlap, so the whole site is basically inside the buffer zone. What they're looking to do is there's an existing deck right off the back of the house. Looking to take that off and do an addition, essentially in the same area. It's a little bit bigger. The deck is 14 by 16 and the addition 16 by 20. So it'll get a little bit wider here and a couple feet deeper right in there. And I think that it would be on a full foundation, so it wouldn't be on like sonotubes. They're looking to do a regular traditional foundation back there. We run the area with erosion barrier, and the construction route would probably come around this side of the building. Their existing septic system off to the side over in here. So we're looking at routing the trucks around this side with a stabilized construction entrance off the driveway right there. We did get comments from Joe as far as the wetland review, and there were a bunch of comments related to the delineation itself. I kind of went through on this in red, changed it basically by the dimensions. We can go out in the field and kind of rehang them, but these are basically off the dimensions that he recommended. Most of the changes were down on this lower wetland, down in here. So as he said in the letter, most of them are away from the work, but they should get updated for the plan, just so they're correct on there. And then he did have a few other comments as far as the construction methods and phasing and everything. He noted that this was as a full foundation and it may get close to groundwater elevation in there. So we should have some provisions or at least some planning ahead of time for if dewatering is necessary. The bottom of footing will probably be around 268, which is about what the elevation of the wetland is. It's about a foot below wetland. When I was out there, the wetland, there wasn't standing water up to the flagging. So if they do it late in the summer, I don't think they're going to need dewatering. But you can never tell the timing. All of a sudden this might get delayed and they decide to do it in the spring. But ideally when they want to do this, it would be this fall. So there shouldn't be dewatering necessary, but if there were, we would pump it up to kind of the middle of the yard where it's stabilized and use most likely hay bales to corral it. And give it a little bit of settling and give it the furthest, distance away from the wetlands on both sides. Stockpiling, it shouldn't be a large excavation because the elevation is lower there in the back. It would probably just be a 4 to 5 foot excavation just to get down below frost. So I was thinking stockpiles would just be temporarily windrow basically along this back edge. And then any materials that had to get stored for longer would get moved, up towards the front. But I would think because of the small area, anything that's not going to get reused soon would just get trucked off. This would be a net export. So anything they're not going to intend to backfill around the foundation with, they'll load in the truck and have to just take it off the site. I'm trying to think if there was anything else in the letter. I think that was basically it. So we do have to update those flaggings though and get a few more details on the plan. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Vito.
Okay.
Joe, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think Vito covered my comments pretty well. I just did note that there were a couple of brush piles
Oh, yeah, I forgot that,
on
sorry.
the edge of the wetlands that probably should be removed. And as Vito mentioned, I had noted that there were some flag changes that I recommended, but they really don't impact the buffer zone in the area of the proposed work. And just a note on the site plan, there's a note under the sediment control section that talks about equipment not being parked within the buffer zone, which in this case is not possible because the entire site is within the buffer zone. So just equipment should be parked, you know, as far from the wetlands as possible, where it's reasonable. You know, possibly on the construction pad or something like that. And that's pretty much it for my comments.
All right, thanks, Joe. Any comments, questions from the board members? Anything from the public?
I don't see any hands.
No? Okay. All right, so we're continuing. Based on the commentary here, so I don't have any questions either, so there your motion to continue to the to the next public hearing?
Yep.
You know?
That'd be good.
Okay, that'd be good, all right. Do I hear a motion to
So moved.
continue to the next public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Massimo.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
Vito, you're off the hook.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Vito. All right, so let's officially deal with 10 Overlook Drive. Melissa provided some information.
Yes, so we did send to Lucas to review. Joe hasn't made it out yet due to the timing of the submission. They kind of gave us a little bit of piecemeal. I also talked with the septic inspector today. I double checked. They finally removed the erosion controls as of this week. But Board of Health is requesting for some little bit of grading. It looks like where they were stockpiling material in the front, they didn't quite get level. So there's that little hump, which is often common. So it sounds like they're going to go out and regrade prior to Board of Health signing off as well. So I'd recommend that we hold off, especially for that, and until Joe gets out. And maybe Joe, now that I'm thinking about if they're going to be regrading, I'm going to give them a call tomorrow to see when that happens, because I think it'd be better for you to go out after and not as they're doing work. So I'll keep you posted on that one.
Just as a heads up, I think probably looking to be in town on Tuesday.
Okay.
So
I mean, if they're gonna be doing regrading, we probably have to wait till so there's some growth. No?
It's right in the front. I mean, yes, yeah. So if we want to wait, I mean, so this was one I wanted to get Joe's eyes on again, because it was a little bit back and forth during the hearing about this issue in particular between the two properties. So I think it's important for that to be done previously. So maybe Joe, yeah, I'll double check about Tuesday. So maybe we have to wait on that one.
Okay. Let's see. I think we're seconds away from the next hearing.
I will load Kip in, who is here for this application then.
This is the 720 Mass Electric. You're on mute.
Yes. Sorry.
Hey, thanks.
Clearly been a long day.
Okay, 720 notice of intent, Mass Electric Company, In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southfield Wetlands Bylaw, the Southfield Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 7:20 p.m. by a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located within the right-of-way along Main Street, Ware Road, Brigham Street, Johnson Road, Northrow Road, the applicant James Rains of Massachusetts Electric Company. The project description is a replacement of 17 distribution poles and the installation of 3 new distribution poles. Must be bigger poles.
Okay, but we don't seem to, I don't know if you were talking, but we couldn't hear you.
Sorry, good evening. My name is Kip Callahan. I'm from VHB representing the Massachusetts Electric Company. I guess I can share the plan if that works for you.
That would be wonderful.
All right, so this page just shows a general overview of where the poles are going to be replaced. So this is Main Street down here. The line dips into Ward Road and Brigham Street, and then comes back out on Main Street, where it then goes up Johnson Road and then Northborough. There are several streams and wetlands that are kind of all part of a bigger complex that drains into the Wachusett Aqueduct. So I'll kind of review those wetland resources real quick, and then I'll go back and show where the poles are. Okay, so there's a perennial stream here that crosses Northborough Road, and it flows down into the Wachusett Aqueduct here. And so it has riverfront area. There's also the Wachusett Aqueduct here, which has the same situation. And then there's a complex of wetlands and streams that are all part of a bigger system, which eventually drains out to the Wachusett Aqueduct this way. And it's a series of intermittent streams and wetlands. And then there's a perennial stream here, and it crosses, it's flowing in this direction, so kind of to the north along here, and it flows under, I believe it's 495 there. And so this is on the other side of the highway. That same stream comes here, and this is where it passes under the highway. And this is a wetland down here. And then this is actually all kind of a bigger wetland complex with a stream that comes back, which is flowing this way under Main Street. And this actually comes up here and connects to this bigger wetland complex back here. And so there are 17 poles overall that are going to be replaced and 3 new poles that will be installed. And this is part of maintenance project to just help continue to provide reliable electricity distribution to the area. I don't know what makes sense for you guys. Would you like me to go through each pole that's going to be replaced on the that's in the different resource areas? What's the best way to present this to you?
In my opinion, I don't know that I want to hear about 17 individual poles being replaced. I think I would like to hear the process in which you're going to use to replace poles.
Okay.
So that we understand what the impact is versus talking about 20 poles individually.
Yeah,
unless the commission has a different opinion.
No, and if there are any areas of concern, I think Joe could highlight them for us if we turn to him.
Okay. And though of the 17, or well, basically the 17 replacement poles and 3 new poles, 10 of those poles fall within jurisdictional area. So that's riverfront area, buffer zone, or the 20-foot no disturb. And essentially the way this installation goes is the electric company will come out with a truck mounted auger, and they'll drill a hole next to the pole that needs to be replaced, and they'll install a new pole there, and they'll remove the old pole. The spoils will either be backfilled into the replacement hole or piled around the new pole. And each replacement and new pole is expected to have approximately 2 square feet of impact. So that results in 2 square feet of permanent impact in riverfront area from a new pole and 8 square feet of temporary impact from replacements. 4 square feet of permanent impact in buffer zone and 14 square feet of temporary impact, and then 2 square feet of permanent impact in the 20-foot no disturb zone and 4 square foot of temporary impact in the 20-foot no disturb zone in total for all of the replacements and new installations. Sediment and erosion control will be selected per the Massachusetts Electric Company best management practices, which are attached to the NOI. So basically, when the crews go out to conduct the work, they'll evaluate the conditions where the pole is, and they'll employ either straw wattles or bales or silt fencing, depending on what they feel is appropriate to make sure to protect, to prevent any sediment from getting into any of the wetlands.
And the old poles will be removed
Yes,
and those holes will be filled in
yes.
with the spoils of the new pole?
I believe so. I'm not actually sure if, exactly what the plan is for that.
Okay. Joe, do you have any comments on this?
Nothing significant. I did go out and review the delineation. Not all the wetlands were delineated. Some were, and some were based on aerial photographs, aerial imagery, which for the individual locations of the poles within jurisdictional areas, I thought that was appropriate. I didn't have any issues with the delineation flags that I reviewed. There were a couple of poles which I had noted it appeared that there was already a new pole installed, and I don't know if that's the case or if that's a newer pole that's going to be replaced by another pole. So that was pole number 8 on Johnson Road and pole number 112 on Main Street. I do concur it qualifies as a limited project. I did request some additional information on erosion control, which was just discussed because it was unclear in the narrative exactly what would be used. I guess it's a site dependent, will be determined by the crew at the time that they go out and look at it. And just a note on one of my final comments was regarding a DEP file number, and the number that I had referenced was not in fact for this project, but DEP has issued a file number for the project with no comment. And I think that's about it for my comments.
All right, thank you.
And I can address the question about the replacement poles. So there are newer poles at the location 112, which is depicted here in the plan, and then which is not currently being planned to be replaced. And then the same goes for number 8. There was also a newer pole installed there, but they are planning to replace that pole again. So they need to upgrade it to, with the current alignment and the planned installation, they do need to replace that pole, even though it's not as old as the other poles.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from commission members?
Just a quick one. I can't recall from the submittals of the application, but Melissa, was there a written request for a waiver from the 20-foot no touch? Okay, so just wanted to double check on that.
Good point. Thank you, Ben. Anybody else?
Will the spoils pile be seeded or, Like it's what stops that from washing away once the,
Yeah, so any disturbed soil in the vicinity of the project will be reseeded.
okay.
Okay, any other comments? Anything from the public?
See any hands?
No hands, okay. See any reason to continue? I don't think so. So, given that, do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
second,
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Osmato.
Yes. Okay,
It's only our standard conditions, correct, Melissa? No additions?
Yeah. We have a continuance the next hearing, so if we wanted to discuss that real quickly now and issue, we have the time, but it's up to you guys.
let me just read the next one and continue it. Then we can.
Yep.
Okay, next is, okay, we have 7:31. Abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, 25 Park Street. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Master Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Southborough Wetlands Protection Act. Sorry, the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw. The Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, August 1st, 2024, at 7:30 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for a project located at 25 Park Street, map 55, lot 93. The applicant, Storlazi Moro, Sharni Moro, Bannon, Usio, and Moro. The project description is confirmation of resource area boundaries. And they've
Yep,
asked
so
for
they have-
continuance.
Yep, Joe and the wetland scientists are gonna meet next week to go over, since the vegetation has grown in a little bit. Since there was it's an interesting site, I'll say.
Okay. They're continuing to the next meeting
Yes.
on the 22nd, okay.
Mhm.
So do I hear a motion to issue the continuance?
So moved.
A second?
second,
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Osmato.
Yes. All right, so back to the last hearing of the work within the roadway of replacing poles. We can talk about what the order conditions should be. Ben, you were saying standard order?
Yeah, it sounds like it's just a standard order without any special additions.
No tree cutting?
There are actually 3 trees that are within the vicinity of some of the poles that may be trimmed. They're depicted on this plan, so I can go over those real quick.
You're not
Those are-
taking them down in their entirety. You're just trimming them.
So they're not clear yet. So the direction we got from forestry is they may need to remove them, but they won't know until they're out doing the work. So there's here on Johnson Road, there's an 18-inch and 21-inch codominant red oak, and then on Main Street, there's I believe it's a 3-inch elm and a 10-inch Norway maple right here near proposed pole 107, and then a 14-inch red oak here across from pole 109.
Okay. So we should probably just provision that as well then.
So they would be taking with them in some fashion, grinding anything that they take down.
Yeah, and so I think they'll do selective trimming if they're able to create the clearance they need, and then if not, they'll cut the tree down and leave the stump. And then they'll probably chip smaller material and then remove any other material.
They won't grind the stump?
I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not sure. I think in the past we talked about potentially leaving the stumps, but I can clarify that with them. Or that's something maybe that could go in the conditions if you guys have some preference towards that.
Yeah, I mean, we can provision what we desire there.
I guess, so we recently had some stumps ground on our property, and it makes an unholy mess. Was my experience, and if they're gonna be.
Sure does.
Yeah, so just with the adjacency to the wetlands, in some cases being within the 20-foot no touch. I think I would be more comfortable with leaving the stumps sort of in situ.
I'd agree.
Do you also want some sort of like notification provision for when they determine what they're going to be doing with the trees besides no stump grinding?
For me, I would just say, if they need to cut the trees down, they cut them down and leave the stumps, and not grind them. Take out the step of them coming back and asking. But I agree with Ben. I mean, when they grind the stump, they usually get a little bit down below the surface. Now you got dirt and everything flying everywhere. All right, so Ben, you want to make a motion to that effect, or?
Sure, so move that we issue the standard order of conditions with the additional condition that any trimming of trees or removal of trees altogether, any waste materials from that, branches, trunks, and so forth, will be removed from the site.
You do we hear a second? What did you say, Melissa?
I said a no stump grinding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, no stump grinding. Yeah.
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes.
All right, Kip, I should probably be able to get this to you tomorrow morning, if not
Great.
on Monday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Melissa, is there anything on the new or continued business that we can take care of in 3 minutes? Or 2?
Sure.
Okay.
So for 200 Southville Road, just a quick update, we did send the demand notice from town council has been sent to the property owner. They have until August 10th to do some sort of response to myself, the building commissioner, or Board of Health. If they do not, then the town council would file an injunction with the courts. So that's well on its way. It's kind of in town council's hands, so any substantial updates, most likely from this point forward, would probably have to be an executive session if they don't do any response. So that'll probably be that. I'll keep you updated as I get information from town council, or if we hear anything back. As of right now, it's still silence on the end of the property owner. Let's see. 2 East Main, just quickly. So we did do a violation notice, and we had a deadline of today to have the owner, Mr. Bemis, consolidate and remove some of the millings and put up some erosion controls. When I followed up with Peter earlier this week, he mentioned that he actually had a family issue come up and he is out of state, so he wasn't able to put that together. I did ask him to at least give me a written narrative about the timeline, a reasonable timeline in which he could get that completed, since he's had quite a bit of leeway, a notification about this. I didn't quite receive a timeline as of yet, just that he sent me kind of a continuance to go to the next meeting. If the commission is amenable, I think that the next deadline would be our next meeting on the 22nd. That's another 3 weeks. He's already kind of had 3 weeks 2-3 times. But he did reach out and he did communicate. So I'll give that what it is. But he said, if you need to give me an enforcement order, that's fine. He does plan to do it. But I did kind of push that it needs to get done. So unless there's some other action, I don't know, I'm kind of stuck.
Okay.
I think he'll do it. He's just being a little slow about it.
Mm.
And I told him that.
All right, well, I mean, family emergencies are always, take priority, so hopefully everything's okay on that front.
Okay.
So, all right, we're at 7:40. Let's see, notice of intent, 170 Woodland Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Max General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southwood Wetlands Bylaw, the Southwood Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 7:40 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located 170 Woodland Road, map 19, lot 110, for the applicant and owner, Sarah Schmidt. The project description is the construction of a pool, associated hardscape improvements, and relocation of a shed.
Go ahead, Sophie.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophie Shapiro, and I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Sarah Schmidt, for the proposed work on the site known as 170 Woodland Road. The DEP file number for this project is 290-1123. I will be presenting project updates to the commission. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. So to recap, since the project is only taking place in the northwestern section of the divided parcel, the plans only display this part of the site. And there is a bordering vegetated wetland in the southeastern part of the project area, which casts the 20-foot no disturb zone into the center and a 100-foot buffer zone over most of the project area. The project area is characterized by an existing single-family house with an associated lawn, driveway, patio and gazebo, and a hot tub, walkways, and then a fence and retaining wall and a few sheds. Construction of a pool and associated amenities, including an expanded patio and walkway, a pavilion, the relocation of one of the sheds, and a revised layout of the fence and retaining wall are proposed. The only work proposed within the 20-foot buffer zone consists of shifting the existing fence and retaining wall outside of the 20-foot buffer zone, and an erosion control barrier in the form of staked straw wattles and staked siltation fence will be installed slightly up gradient of the 20-foot buffer zone to BVW. This can be seen in this pink dash line here. At the project's first hearing on July 11th, the commission requested that the erosion control barriers are shifted down gradient of the existing retaining wall over here, which is proposed to be removed. This will be revised on our next set of site plans. And the commission requested surface drainage to accommodate storm conditions that may result in the pool overtopping. So the applicant will propose a dry well here at the lowest point of the pool apron, and this will also be added to our next set of plans. The commission also requested that we attend a site walk with a peer reviewer. So Mitch Maslenka and I, Sophie Shapiro of Goddard Consulting, attended a site walk with Joe Orzel of Lucas Environmental on July 25th. At the site walk, Joe requested that a few flags are shifted or removed. He requested that we remove GC 17 and add GC 18 in the location where it was approximated on the plan and remove GC 20. Additionally, Joe requested that we shift flags GC 1 and GC 2 about 4 feet up gradient, but these flags are not shown on this plan. The requested flag changes will not change the location of the buffer zone within the limit of work, since it'll only be shifting over here. And once we receive the requested site plan revisions, we will submit a supplemental information package addressing all of the commission and the peer reviewers' comments. In summary, the applicant is seeking an order of conditions for the proposed work and would like to ask if the commission has any other requested revisions that we can implement to obtain an order of conditions next time. Thank you.
Is the pool chlorine or saltwater?
I'm not sure, actually. I can get back to you on that.
I'm curious as to how they're gonna back flush the filters and where that water is gonna go.
Yes,
And-
I will look into that and include it in
And
the
whether it's
supplemental
chlorine based or
package.
saltwater based. Any other questions, comments from commission members? No. Joe, anything from you?
Just a couple of quick comments. I think Sophie went over the changes in the flagging. It sounds like she mentioned all the changes that I had noted. I also pointed out there's a small isolated area adjacent to the wetland where there's some wetland vegetation. This appeared to be a constructed area, and it was pointed out at the site inspection with Goddard that that area is an actual constructed stormwater feature that was noted on the as-built plans. So as a stormwater feature, I think it was appropriate not to call it out as a wetland. It was constructed fairly recently, I think. Order of conditions was 2007 or sometime around 2013, maybe. I had some comments on the same questions you had regarding the backwash and where that will be directed to.
Mhm.
Also, I think it might have come up at the last hearing as far as a comparison of existing impervious area to proposed impervious area. And I would note that, you know, any dry well that's being proposed should have some calculations with it that it's appropriately sized. Construction sequence, the site plan had a section on construction sequence, but it was really more on BMPs. So maybe some additional information on the plan as far as removal of existing structures and then construction of the new items. And also just had a question on the site plan. There's areas that are indicated by striping and stippling, but it's not really clear. I didn't see a legend or a description of what those represent. So just request that be identified. And that pretty much covers the remainder of my comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and all of that will be addressed in our supplemental information package. I can provide the change in impervious surface right now. It's on a site plan that isn't finished and stamped yet, so I can't provide the plan to the commission, but I can give you the numbers. The existing impervious area is 5,165 square feet, and the increased impervious area is 1,659 square feet.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? No, all right.
And we will also be including the plans that were submitted with the order of conditions and the certificate of compliance from the previous project. I believe the order of conditions was issued in 2007 and the COC was issued in 2012. And that includes the stormwater management feature that Joe was talking about.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Can I answer any other questions right now?
Let's see if anybody from the public has any questions.
I don't see any hands.
No hands, okay. Looks like no. You're free to go.
All right,
So-
great. Well, we would like to request a continuance to the next hearing so that we can submit our supplemental information package.
All right, great. Do I hear a motion to continue this to the next hearing on 8/22?
So moved.
A second,
second,
all in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You as well. Okay, we're at 7:50. It's notice of intent 20 and 22 Turnpike Road. Map 39, lots 28, 29, and 32. Restoration of buffer zone activities outside the allowed limit of work for self-storage and golf range activities. They've asked for a continuance.
Yes, for the same reasons that Peter is unavailable.
Okay,
We haven't received any revised plans either, so nothing really new to discuss.
all right, so I guess no need to read it since it's a continuance, so do I hear a motion to continue to the next hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes,
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes. Okay. We have 9 minutes before the next public hearing.
And that too
Yeah.
will be a continuance.
What'd you say?
I said that too will be a continuance for 120.
Okay.
Just
I
for
need to be
anyone else.
excused for about 3 minutes. I'll be back.
Is everyone staying cool?
very much.
It's very humid out there. Joe, I think if you wanted to head out, I don't think there was anything else because we're going to continue 120.
Right,
you
I
like
don't think,
to
I don't think
see
there's anything else that we've commented on. coming
Yeah.
up.
It's all for you if you would like.
Well, I think I will take you up on that.
I
Have a
don't
good
blame
night.
you.
So, have a good night, everyone.
You
Okay.
too.
Hi, Joe. And I'll talk to you about 10 Overlook when I know more.
Okay, thanks.
Let you off the hook? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right, I'm back. What do you think, Melissa? What can we take care of now?
Since the next one is continued, if you wanted to do stewardship committee, Joyce is here. You know, Kevin is obviously with us to talk about the charge. I don't think it will. I personally don't think it's a lot of discussion, but I guess it's up to you guys. But
Well, so we can go ahead and start that, and when it gets to 8 o'clock, we can pause.
Okay.
Continue the other hearing and then resume.
sure. All right, so I'll move
Okay.
Joyce over and I'll let her move in. And if Freddie joins, I'll look for her and I'll move her over at the time. Joyce, did you want to do an intro or do you want me to do the background?
I can do it, but I did post this for a full stewardship meeting, so I wanted to see if any other stewards were on the call. I know Freddie is on her way to log in. She just called me. She was driving home. So is Brett Peters on?
I don't see anyone else but you and Kevin.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make clear that we don't have quorum when it's just me and Kevin. So I can give the background while we wait for Freddie.
Well, if
The-
you want to wait a little bit, maybe we can take
Yeah,
care of the annual reorganization of the commission.
that'd be great. Thank you.
So I don't know how much discussion we need to have around number 2. Liz is not here. We're expecting a new commission member
Oh, I had a
soon.
question about that. They got pulled off the select board agenda. What happened, Melissa? I was afraid she lost
No,
interest.
she was sick,
Oh,
so they
okay.
took it completely off the agenda for whatever reason.
Okay, but she still is interested.
Yes, I believe at the next select board meeting, just because she couldn't be there in person to do the interview, so they postponed it.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.
Well, her resume and qualifications precede any physical meeting, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, you would think.
I was
I mean-
hoping we could skirt away with it. I tried to make it clear, like, oh, they're a previous commissioner, they have experience, but they still want to. I think because
Well,
it's a newer select board, so.
even more than that. I mean, given the position she held in Westboro,
Mhm.
Now her current one.
And her
Yeah.
current
you know,
one.
in the current one, yeah, I mean, the qualifications are through the roof. I mean, okay. So, I would just recommend to the board, that we wait until Liz is here. And maybe when, hopefully she gets appointed, and she should be appointed,
Mhm.
in my opinion, not Liz, but, Sherry, who's applied.
Yep.
That we have that discussion then, in my opinion,
I agree.
and hold off on it, so.
Okay.
So,
When do we have to have it done by, Melissa? When are we required to act on that?
It's not necessarily a requirement. It's just they suggest every July 1 because that's usually when the new appointments happen. But because
Oh.
we're kind of in the middle,
Yeah.
we'll just whenever we get Sherry, I'll put it on that agenda.
I don't think it's a hard and fast rule,
Yeah.
and, whenever you want to throw me under the bus, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting off the hook that easily.
Oh, no. All right, so that's that one. Let's see here. We still waiting a little bit. Is 34 Sears Road?
Yeah, I mean, so they've been signing for our enforcement orders, but I've gotten absolutely no correspondence. So I think the last letter we sent was, hey, this is your final notice before fines start. So as long as the commission's okay with kind of what we've been going, I can say that as of August 2nd, which is usually tomorrow, we do it the day after we take the vote, that fines have started to accumulate for the violation. That would be my recommendation on that one. So it's pretty simple. We've just gotten silence.
Have they gone completely quiet?
Yep, I mean, they sign the green cards every time, but I've gotten absolutely nothing from them.
Because if I recollect correctly, they were cooperating for a while.
That's kind of why I was confused.
And then,
'Cause they knew it was coming too.
and have they gone completely silent?
I mean, so the property of 20 Sears has sold, the new owners are working on their building permit. They're doing what they need to do. But the 34 Sears, the DePietri parcel is still just kind of sitting there with no correspondence back to us.
Okay.
So if you guys are comfortable, probably a motion to state or send a letter stating that relative to the enforcement order, fines will start accumulating August 2nd for the illegal culverting of the stream.
I mean, what about the engineering representatives? Have they gone quiet too?
Well, it's because they don't own, so they were kind of only speaking about 20 Sears at that time. So now that
Okay.
that 20 Sears is owned by someone else, the division has been had.
I see.
So I think while it was the same people who applied, they knew it was coming, they're just choosing not to play ball.
All right, so play ball. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's disappointing. I think we've shown, like even tonight with 2 East Main Street, as long as people will communicate with us, with, you know, we'll work with them. It's just, to completely ignore it is a little surprising.
yeah, agreed. So Melissa, do you have a letter prepared?
I don't have a letter prepared, but essentially what I do is I kind of do the attachments of the enforcement order, kind of reiterate what we have already sent and state prior, you know, not due to recent, but per past notifications, fines have started to accumulate as of 8/2. And then, you know, your process to, you know, rectify is reach out to the commission, or, you know, further injunctive action, et cetera, will come. It will mimic what we did for 200 Southville.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And yeah, our past practice, which I kind of expect we'd continue to do, is if they simply reach out to us at the next meeting, you know, we would, in the past, we put fines into forbearance while they're making the effort, and when they get things all cleaned up, we just waive the fine. Is what we've done. And
Yeah.
if they will just pick up the phone and engage with us, there's no reason for this to continue down this path.
Yeah.
Well, they've gone radio silent evidently, so we need to
Yeah.
have them pick up the radio.
Yep.
So,
So, do you want to do a formal vote? Do you want a motion
Yes.
to?
yeah, we would need to, yeah.
Well, then, I move that, we have Melissa, issue a letter, to this party that they are in violation of the, enforcement order. And that fines, in the amount of up to $300 per violation per day will begin to accrue starting on August 2nd.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes. Okay, so we're at 8:02, so let me, okay, so this is a notice of intent, 120 Turnpike Road. It's a continued public hearing. They've asked for a continuance.
Correct.
And
They
they asked
said-
for continuance to the next hearing.
Yep, and
22nd?
they said that they will be here with the full package to do an actual final introduction to this plan.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to continue the 120 Turnpike Road public hearing to August 22nd?
So moved.
All right, is a second.
Second,
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes.
And I did send out an email about the balloon test they're doing next week for anyone interested. I just wanted to put that out there real quick.
Melissa, can you just clarify the purpose of the balloon test? And
It's for visibility. So basically they put up a big balloon to the height of where the building would be to see, you know, how it would be visible from the various perspectives. So, you know, usually it's done most commonly for like water towers and things like that. So to make sure that abutters aren't impacted visually because of the height of the project.
and if there is feedback about the height, is it subject to change?
I think that's would happen in the ZBA discussions, it sounds like, but that would, I'm not quite sure the logistics of if it's like officially required or if they're just doing this as good grace, but it's something that I can figure out with Laura when she's back on Monday for sure and send you guys an email about what that would entail
Yeah.
based on the results.
Just so we're clear on the purpose and
Yeah.
next, if there would be any. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Is it-
typically it's been for visibility, impact, right?
Yeah.
So abutters, that now they have a building and they lose their you know, their ability to have the landscape ability and all that sort of stuff, right? So they get a better understanding as to how high the building's going to be and how big it's going to be, and the impact to their environment with respect to visual impacts. Years ago, in my neighborhood, they were talking about putting a water tower up, and they did a balloon study up there, you know, to understand what the impact of the water tower would be with respect to abutters and their visual impacts. And the water tower has not been built yet, but I don't know if it will be in the future, but it's not there yet. All right, so moving on, I see that Joyce is here,
yeah.
Freddie's here. Go ahead,
Yeah.
sorry.
I didn't know if Joyce wanted to comment on that issue. Or I just saw the hand raised.
Yes, I did. That I wanted to point out as chair of stewardship that in our original letter about that potential development there, we did request the balloon visibility test before the site plan changed and everything. So that was something that was in our original letter, raising some of the concerns we had about the proximity to the Breakneck Hill conservation land. So.
Okay. So Freddie, I see your hand up, but I think what we want to do is get started first and try to get an overview, and then we'll take questions.
Are we on to my item?
I was talking
We are,
about
yes, we are.
I was talking about the,
You're up, Joyce.
I think Freddie had a comment on the development, that portion. Can she speak?
Well, we really can't talk about 120. It's been continued.
Yeah, I would caution the discussion at this point.
Yeah, we can't talk about 120.
So yes, I'm happy to fill you in. And I know in your packets that the language, there's some language we included that I'll be talking about tonight. So the select board has been engaging the stewardship committee on both our charge and our membership, and put forward some draft language that is in the packet on charge for us, because apparently back in history when stewardship became a committee, there wasn't a clear charge. So the stewards met last week, and we're fine with the charge about our mission. It's essentially language that we've been using on our own documents and website. However, we are looking for Conservation Commission support for a change in what the select board put forward for our membership. We're pleased about the reduction in membership from 7 to 5, because we had vacancies anyway. And we've been very, very effective as a 5-person committee. However, the select board has suggested in their draft language that all of our members be at large. And we think there's very good reason to sustain a dedicated seat for a conservation commissioner, which is now filled by Kevin, and a dedicated seat for the open space preservation commission, which is now filled by Freddie. And I'll offer that we put high value on having a conservation commissioner on our committee, and as a way to keep those lines, another avenue beyond Melissa or us all coming to a meeting to present, to keep those communication lines open both ways. And in terms of the Open Space Preservation Commission's designated seat, the town's master plan designates that committee as being in charge of dealing with invasive species in the town. And as you know, that's a big part of what stewards do in our management of the property. So and a lot of expertise resides there. So we very much value that designated seat. So we put forward our response to the select board version of the charge and the membership, with the change that it would be 3 at-large members and a designated seat for a conservation commissioner, which is a voting seat, and a designated seat for a open space preservation commission, which is a voting seat. And we're slated to be talking to the select board about this next week, and would very much like to be able to go to that meeting with the support of the Conservation Commission for stewardship's position, which we've voted on. And Kevin, did you want to add anything to that?
It is nice having the dedicated seat. I can't imagine stewardship without a conservation member on there. So I think that one really makes sense. And I think the open space, Freddie is our invasive expert, and that one makes a lot of sense to me too. I think we're losing a dedicated recreation seat. I don't know when that was filled last, but
Years. Hasn't been filled for over a decade. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
I mean, as far as lines of communication, I think Melissa does an excellent job. You guys know everything I know by the time I walk into our meetings, so I don't really have much of a role. That's okay. It's better to have, be up to date. So, occasionally I'll remember something, but I think there is value in having that seat for conservation.
Freddie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, hi. I guess the Open Space Preservation Commission and Concom have had participation since the beginning of the stewardship committee. And my thought is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's been no problem. We asked what the reason was for the change, and the response was to be more flexible. But the committee.
What's that mean?
Well, hello. The committee doesn't need the flexibility because we've had dedicated people. I've, like Joyce also, have been sitting on the committee since it was formed in 2005. And I can understand if we couldn't get representatives from Conservation or Open Space Preservation Commission, that then maybe you'd want to look at opening it up to other at-large members. But when it's working well, why change it? And that's my perspective. I think both Kevin and I provide great value there, and I don't know why you'd want to change that, possibly or intentionally.
Yeah, and I agree with the value that they bring. I think our committee is effective, and I hope that the Conservation Commission will support our position on that, so that when we're in front of the select board, I can refer to that.
Well, from my point of view or perspective is, if it isn't broke, leave it alone. Don't try to break it. I see Sam is on. Sam, can you give any color to this as to why this is even being discussed?
I allowed him to. Oh, there he is.
Yep, sure, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Thanks. I think first point, nobody's suggesting that the current stewardship members are not doing an important and effective job. I think the flexibility reason came, we've encountered some circumstances where, in fact, there are seats on committees that are supposed to be for members of particular other committees. And we've had trouble filling those where the committees that were supposed to produce the members haven't done it for one reason or another. And so the committees have been understaffed. And so the general theory is that if you make the members at large, that gives more flexibility to filling seats and getting everybody up to full capacity on the committees. And so again, I think there's been no conversation to say that any of the current stewardship members shouldn't continue in that position, and that the preference shouldn't be for participation, particularly here from Concom and open space. But should we encounter such a circumstance where, for whatever crazy reason, people aren't put forward for those seats, we've got the flexibility to fill those positions. So that's the simple reason.
Okay, so you opened the door, so here it comes. We're trying to get Sherry back on the board. She
Yep.
was sick,
Yep.
and the Board of Selectmen didn't appoint her, and now we're waiting. And
Well,
she's
we were ready to actually, and she did not show up at the meeting. So
she's sick.
yeah,
I mean,
know.
I don't know why she had to show up at the meeting. She should just be appointed. Her resume is outstanding.
Yeah, now, I was prepared to do that. I think I know Sherry's experience more than most of the others on the select board. Generally, people want to talk to people before they appoint them. So I think that, I was ready to do that, but others weren't. So
Okay.
that's where we are. But again, that's teed up for the 6th, and I expect to do that then.
Well, good, because here's an opportunity. We have somebody stepping up in the community that, and our board is down, right? I mean,
Yep.
we have 5 members. We need to have 7.
And she is eminently qualified, as you suggest.
Oh, extremely qualified. So,
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
would love to have her back.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
So
well,
anyway,
thank you for your support. Anyways,
I appreciate Joyce's suggestion of one more at-large seat. I think that moves in the right direction. So we'll see where the conversation Tuesday goes.
okay. So,
Yep. Sorry.
Sam, thanks for your support. Anyway, so.
Thank you.
Freddie's hand's raised.
May I speak?
Just did. Go ahead.
I didn't understand the last statement from Selectman Stivers or Select Board member. Joyce, did you make a suggestion that we have one more at-large member?
I did not, but I think I guess that what we're suggesting is that 2 be designated seats and 3 be at large. So maybe somehow that got perceived as additional at large, because there was a seat that was removed, which was recreation, which is the one we weren't able to fill for years. We haven't been able to fill a representative from recreation. So we were comfortable giving that seat up. So the balance would still be 3. In the new configuration, a 5-member committee with 3 at-large and 2 designated seats. That's
Joyce,
our preference.
I was reading that from the other side. We have 1 fewer designated seat there, so you can look at it.
Okay.
Same result.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's not adding a new, it's not adding a new at-large because we currently have 3 at-large and 2 designated who are appointed and have been sitting on the committee for years.
So it's reducing the percentage of dedicated seats.
I see.
Yeah, same result. I think we're all on the same page.
So
Okay.
just as one commissioner here, I would go further than to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think stewardship has been working exceptionally well. And I think without stewardship involved, I think conservation would be in a terrible bind. And I think Breakneck Hill, the Breakneck Hill property would look markedly different. I think it often goes unnoticed that of all the boards, committees, commissions in town, stewardship actually gets out there and does a ton of physical work on the property. They're a very hardworking committee, and their accomplishments at Breakneck Hill, looking at the pictures from when the property was first purchased, when it was a 12-foot high, 60-acre thicket of bittersweet compared to what it is now, the progress has been just absolutely stunning. The benefit of having a conservation commissioner providing communication back and forth with our committee is huge, and open space this is now the repository of knowledge here in our town government for dealing with invasives. And this is a critical ongoing fight on Breakneck Hill Farm. This fight can't be relaxed for a single season, or, you know, we get an invasion of multiflora rose or purple loosestrife, or God forbid, the bittersweet starts reestablishing a foothold. So I think I would go further than that it's not broke. I would say it has been working exceptionally well, and the changes proposed by Joyce and stewardship, just to make it easier to get a quorum together. I think patches up, you know, the one small problem that had been emerging. So just to say it out loud, I completely and enthusiastically support stewardship's proposal.
Thank you.
Agreed.
As do I.
I would say too is Kevin, you're a little too modest. I do think there are many times when you bring back concepts from the stewardship meetings to the Conservation Commission, and it's very helpful to have your knowledge and the experience you gain, the things that are in play at stewardship that you're able to communicate to this team. It's really important to have that linkage so that we understand and can be supported.
So thank you.
Thank you. Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Honestly, thank you all for all you do. I mean, it's something that, at least from my perspective, you know, it's not on my radar screen to worry about. Right? I mean, it's taken care of, it's looked after. Periodically we have to have some discussions about it, but it's, you know, from my perspective, it's all good and it's not broke.
So, is the Conservation Commission willing to, I don't know, email the select board? I mean, I know Sam is here hearing it, but maybe email them your support for our position.
When are they going to be discussing this again?
Tuesday, the 6th.
The 6th?
Mhm.
Okay.
Perhaps just a suggestion, maybe we could conduct a vote of support. And if it passes, we could ask Melissa if she has time to write a letter, you know, that, you know, on the evening of August 1st, the Conservation Commission voted to support the reconfiguration of stewardship to contain one conservation member, one open space member, and 3 at-large members, something along those lines.
Yes, that would be a good idea. I'm just wondering if anybody has any time to physically show up to the select board meeting. I might be able to, so.
I'm gonna try to shuffle things, and if I'm able, I will.
I mean, certainly if we, you know, we show up, I mean, Kevin's on the committee, so, you know, having maybe, you know, 1, 2, or 3 of others of us show up would be supportive.
Do you want to do a vote in the meantime? And I can
Yes,
definitely
yes,
get that off.
let's do a vote.
Probably tomorrow.
Well, so I'll make the motion that move that the commission supports stewardship's proposal of reconfiguring the committee to contain 1 member of the Conservation Commission, 1 member of the Open Space Preservation Commission, and 3 at-large members.
So moved.
Second?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Osmato.
Yes.
All right, and Joyce, I'll copy you on whatever I send to the select board's office.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
The
Chicken
stewardship-
coop?
No.
We are at 12 Walnut. I see them here, so hold on 1 second.
Okay.
All right. So as a reminder, this is at 12 Walnut Drive. There's a chicken coop to the rear of the property. There is a kind of like a stormwater swale that carries water, mostly groundwater, that is kind of running through. It's culverted and then discharged across the street, and directly into the wetland resource areas that are adjacent to the town forest. So the homeowner is here to discuss. Originally, we had requested them to move the chicken coop a little bit interior to the property, because the area in which the chicken coop is historically has had flooding, and is kind of in a low spot in the property. So John is here for questions, background, etc.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I'm in my basement today. My wife's putting our 4 children to bed as we speak, so this is my only safe space. I guess really what I wanted to convey to the conservation team here tonight is originally, yes, we've had some soggy grass in the back of our home near the culvert area, and then last year we had some pretty severe flooding, and we were obviously that's a concern to us, and when we thought of where to place our chicken coop, we took that into consideration. In the meantime, while we were placing our chicken coop, and I have a video that I'd be happy to share with you in a moment, the woman that lives at the top of Walnut Drive, I believe she's the first house technically on Oak Hill, she had her land filled in. So if it's okay, it may be helpful if I present a video while I'm explaining what I'm referring to here, if that's all right. See if I can pull that up. I usually use Microsoft Teams at home. My apologies. Let's see. Okay. Oh.
When was this taken?
This was taken on January 3rd. So this was when we were starting to have, it was kind of a warmer winter for us up here, obviously, and we were having a severe rainstorm. So this is Oak Hill here, and the water is running down Oak Hill, and it's pouring into the yard of the house that's at the corner. And I know this is not, I don't have a surveyed area, but so Oak Hill splits off from Walnut Drive here, and the property here owns this land, and this is all sunken in. And I took some photographs from this video just so you can see kind of how deep that actually goes down. So as you can see here, and I'll pause for a moment, the water is probably about 1.5 feet deep here, and it goes all the way to the back of her property. And that's where it meets the culvert. And that water is diverted down the culvert and in between the properties here. And that's where we got that flooding from. The photograph that you had received from our neighbor was a result of all of that water that had flooded from some pretty severe weather that we had. I guess I can wrap that up there. And the reason that I show you that is that that has been completely filled in, as displayed by this photograph right here. They brought in 70 yards of fill into that corner of our street here. And I have a better photo here just so you can see this one here. So this entire area has been brought up and is now level and at the street. You can see there's a little lip here, and that continues around. The water no longer goes into this house's yard, so it no longer diverts to the culvert. And just so you can see here, so even on our heaviest days of rain where we've gotten the most rain so far this season, the culvert is completely, at this point, grassed in. It's completely dry. There's no groundwater to speak of in the area. We wanted to make sure that we were very informed and prepared for our meeting here today. So we've been monitoring that daily with every rainstorm. The only time that we had any water in the culvert the entire year was on June 27th, where we had about, I would say maybe about a 1/4 inch of rain in the culvert. All this to say that we're not receiving any of the, or even a fraction of the water that we had been receiving prior to that. We have some pretty happy chickens back there. I guess I'll pause for a moment. Any
Where's the water
questions
going
on
now?
that? There's no water, sir. There's none to
Is it
speak
going
of.
down Oak Hill Road?
I would suspect that yes, it's being diverted. It's not going down into that woman's yard, so it would be going down the street.
Okay.
Certainly not into any of the neighbors' yards, at least in our area at all. I had something else that I wanted to speak of. My apologies. So regarding the chicken coop here, there is a berm, and I tried to show you some of the elevation here. So here's our chicken coop in the back of our yard. Here's the berm that goes up, and then the culvert is actually on the other side of this. We took a measurement from the culvert to our chicken coop. We are 18 feet, so we're 2 feet into the no-touch zone, which I'm trying to portray here. We're pretty far out of there, and for any water to even reach the chicken coop, the water would have to go. This is actually a good. Well, let's see if this is a better example. The water would have to go from the culvert. It would have to go up this slope, up this berm, over the berm, and then continue down into the chicken coop, and then recede back over. And that's about a 3.5 foot incline. So the chickens are well protected, we feel at this point. And being that we're trying to be as good a pet owner as we possibly could be, if there were any harm, towards our chickens or any water towards the chickens, we would move it ourselves on our own behalf, just to make sure that they're in a safe place. But we would, I guess what we're looking for here is to give us the chance here to see if truly the water has completely stopped. And if so, then hopefully we can agree that this is okay. And if it does get water, then we will move it very happily to appease anyone on this call.
Okay. So we were getting water, you're no longer getting water, or you're getting very little.
Correct.
And the chicken coop is 2 feet inside the 20 foot. Where was the chicken coop before you moved it to where it is now?
We had tried, and I apologize. I can send pictures after the fact if you would like. We tried to have it in the interior of our property. Because of the way that they put in our septic and our leach bed, our backyard is raised. And so there's not really a level area on the interior of our property. That back area near the culvert happens to be the most level piece of land that we own. If we were to bring it in, and I apologize too, I meant to mention, so the chicken coop rests next to our perimeter fence. So to bring it inwards 2 feet, we would have to cut through our fence and pull the chicken coop into the interior of our property, which would obviously be no small feat. But yes, our backyard is not level in any place. We would have to, I don't know, maybe use sonotubes or level the land in order to bring that interior.
How big is the chicken coop?
It is an 8 by 11.
Okay. How many chickens?
8.
They have
Only one
names?
producing eggs.
Only kidding.
Yes. Yeah, we have Bob and not Bob, which are the kids' favorites.
Melissa,
Thank-
you've been working with the homeowners for some time here.
Yep.
Do you have any commentary?
I'm still trying to understand the impact from the fill at the corner. I know in talking with DPW, they do have a recorded drainage easement. He didn't have any immediate concerns with the work that had been done because the berm might have been done in that drainage easement, but didn't have any immediate issues. Where the coop is, there is that change in elevation, but as kind of John was talking to, it is kind of, their backyard is sloped. So where the chicken coop is kind of in the lowest spot. I think water has historically kind of gone around the berm, but don't know how much of it is coming, from the road. When I was talking with Bill Cundiff, our DPW director, I think they've done a lot of looking into where the water stems from. And I know the video that John just showed it coming from the road. It also looks like there's a lot of water that comes through groundwater in terms of from kind of like the opposite of Walnut. So kind of on Oak Hill, but on the opposite side of where the filled in area was, because it's a little bit higher. So I think it'll probably most likely always get some sort of water. I just don't know what extent. It's definitely really grassed right now. So it's soaking up a little bit more. It is a grass swale. So it's not stoned, it's not lined, anything like that. So it's always kind of soggy, but in terms of extra water, I know like the winters that we've been having, it got a lot of water because the ground was frozen. So water just kind of sheet flows through during those conditions. So I guess I'm kind of not quite sure. I think, the main concern for me was if that area does get flooded, that direct connection that culvert has, we know it does discharge right to the wetland resource areas. So that was kind of the biggest concern at the time, not necessarily like the location of the pen, but in the 20-foot, but the kind of the flooding that happened historically. And if that's, not happening, then maybe it's a topic for discussion. It's just kind of unclear as to where the water really stems from and the amount that they'll get kind of moving forward since that work has been done.
So you think it's kind of a monitor situation?
I think it definitely could be, especially if things are alleviated, then I would rather monitor than say move it and it becomes not an issue later on. So in that instance, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't want to put any stress on Bob and not Bob. Is that what you said their names were?
or my back. I would appreciate not having to move 600 pounds of metal if I can help it.
Well, I mean, given the work that's been done at the corner, and this summer is not as wet as last summer by a long shot. So maybe doing some monitoring here and understanding what's happening, on the ground might be appropriate given the landscape and the elevations and stuff have changed.
I'm very happy to work with Melissa on any monitoring that she would need if she needs to come out, or I can submit photographs after severe rainstorms just to monitor the levels and whatever I need to do to be amenable.
I mean,
Yeah.
certainly the video you showed with all that water coming from Oak Hill in that backyard is a problem. That's not a good thing for sure. So if the work that they did, it sounds like they did it on their own dime to mitigate their problem, that if that has alleviated things, then we ought to monitor that and understand. That's my opinion.
I appreciate that.
I'm only one member,
I agree, that's reasonable.
I agree also. I'm sorry, I think you may well have said this when you were giving your presentation and I just missed it. When did the property owner at the corner of Walnut and Oak Hill, when did they do the filling?
So yeah, they started to bring in that fill around the end of February, beginning of March.
Okay, yeah, recently, this past year. Okay.
correct. And then we got the chickens, I want to say the end of March. So it all kind of coincided at the same time.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, Mark, I agree with you. There's been it looks like some pretty substantial work done to keep road drainage within the roadway and away from this area. So it seems appropriate to monitor to make sure that that is indeed what's going on. And if it is, the problem may well have been solved by the neighbor.
And certainly if we get, frozen ground situations and large rainstorms, that'll be a telltale, right? It's not gonna
Yeah,
get soaked up by anything. It's gonna find its way to the lowest point.
So I can definitely work with John, for the next however long we need, after some of the larger rainstorms, documenting what's in the culvert, etc. If that works for the commission. Sorry.
It certainly makes sense to me. Any others?
Yeah, it's so recent that everything changed. I think it makes sense to see if it fixed the problem already. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we'll watch and wait.
Right. Yeah,
Thank you.
John, I'll follow up with you. So as of now, nothing needed. We'll touch base, probably early next week on just kind of the protocol of what we'll do when those storms happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and understanding.
How many eggs you get a day?
Oh, only one so far. Only one's laying.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, hopefully by the next week or two, we'll have lots of omelets. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
Okay, see bylaw fee structure?
Yeah. So this came out of the last meeting and something that I've been wanting to talk about. So we approved the new Lucas contract at the last meeting with some newer rates for the hourly rates for review. But something Laura and I have been running into more frequently is that we're getting more overages for the peer review cost than what is initially submitted. And it's just sometimes very difficult to recoup those costs after the fact, because oftentimes we don't have the final hours for billing until after the permit's been issued. A lot of times, sometimes they're RDAs, and that's kind of like a one and done. There's no closeout process. NOIs, sometimes it's a little bit easier because we know they're going to be coming back. So we have that sort of mechanism, and conditions within the order allow us to kind of recoup those costs. But Laura has been consistently doing expense tracking for each application. And so she put together this for the last year and a half, kind of what the
Ooh, a lot of red.
I know. So
Yikes.
this is what
Ouch.
the red is, the average overage. So we have to go back and request additional money. And ironically, we have no issue with commercial. I think because we haven't had a lot of large commercial projects, it's been like kind of rehab type things, but residential costs go over almost every single time consistently. And so it's just a little awkward sometimes trying to request it. We've gotten a lot of nasty grams about it. And part of this is also, now that I have admin support, we kind of got shuffled a little bit to, no fault of us, just with a lot of 40Bs, building commissioner stuff. Laura's time has been really focused on ZBA, which is warranted. So COMCOM, I haven't had, I guess, as much time as I used to or have wanting to be in the field. So I've been trying to take a lot of the simple RDAs over, which are like the sheds, the decks, etc. Trying to do some of the COCs for some of the simpler projects, as long as they're not new construction, they're just septic repairs or some things like that, to try and help on that cost. But otherwise, this is kind of what we've been trying to come to terms with. I do try and, I hate to say, eat some of the cost as much as we can when warranted, because sometimes you know, we just don't, either we don't get responses, or it's, you know, sometimes it's only $50. It's like, okay, that can come out of their bylaw fee. So I definitely have tried to utilize, you know, those costs as much as possible, but with the kind of incremental increase in time, I think Joe spends a little bit more time than maybe Matt did previously. You know, we also have to pay them for their time at the meetings and things like that. So kind of our balances in our funds, you know, haven't really increased much because of the increased costs with Lucas coming to meetings, etc. But I think there's a way to start to think about what some proposed peer review costs would be in terms of consultant fees for when they submit an application. I know we've kind of talked about fees in the past and not wanting to raise them, but I think at least at a office standpoint, we're at a point where we are on almost every single application, ironically, except for commercial, are in the red. So I don't expect you guys to digest this right this second and come up with the best case scenario. Laura did put some averages of what the cost is over on these tables, what the differences are. I can't tell you how thankful I am that she could put this together so quickly because she tracks everything so efficiently. So I'm thinking either for a next meeting, or I'd also thought we have some other random administrative stuff and open space stuff if we wanted to have a designated kind of administrative discussion meeting. This might be something that we could talk about, and or I can, for the next meeting, put together a little bit more information and maybe some proposals of using these averages of what we could increase at least our consultant costs to be. And if there are other ways that the commission wants me to kind of pick up on certain reviews, or, you know, I've been trying to also streamline some of our applications in terms of RDAs that, you know, are simple, like deck sheds, etc. I'm still working on like the invasive removal, like spec sheets, so people can pluck those out and just submit, and it's something we've already vetted. A lot of these, it's just, you know, I think if there's also something, you know, I know Joe also always looks at the wetland line and, you know, looks at it flag by flag for very small adjustments. If it's something where we want to talk to Lucas and on certain applications, we just have a general consensus and not like, you know, flag per flag, you know, this moves 1 feet, 2 foot, etc. That might be something to think about. You know, and we can more frequently put on our findings of facts that we are not confirming the wetland delineation in terms of that. It's just for this project only. So there are definitely ways to help alleviate some of this burden. But it's a lot of the residential that has gone over, and that's what we kind of see the most. You know, some of the ANRADs we kind of expect to go over, because that could be a lot of back and forth because that is just strict wetland line. You know, but some of these other ones, you know, this was like a new house COC, so the total was 575. It just, some of them add up very quickly. And for the average homeowner, you know, who might be just putting on a smaller addition, could get burdensome. So wanted to put that out there, at least get your initial thoughts. And if me putting some proposals together would be a good next step, or if there's something else that you wanted to discuss and see before we talk about this a little bit more. That's it.
So I see 20 Sears Road on this list 3 times.
Yep. So they're all different applications.
Yeah, 1650, 1225, and 450. So, and I know that's been a kind of a problem one, so that's probably an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I'd want to understand is why are these all over the initial fee paid? Like, because there's 2 pieces of this, right? There's the initial fee paid, what we're asking the consultant to do, in what they actually do. Right? And I'm not gonna throw Lucas under the bus, but if they continue to find issues with what they find in the field, this continues to add up.
Yeah.
Right, as time goes on. So if we're asking them to do field analysis work that they're taking on because they think that's what we want to have them do, we might need to refine what we're asking them to do. Like you said, for the wetlands line, if we're not going to confirm the wetlands line, then if it's off a foot or two, who cares?
Yep.
Right? Doesn't matter. But if we need to confirm the wetlands line and make it part of the record, then that's a bigger deal.
Right.
And obviously, when you have commercial properties, the initial fee paid is $2,500 compared to $150 or $300 for some of these other ones. So, you know, it sways the pendulum.
Yeah.
So, you know, in looking at these, if I was going to go get a COC and I was going to get charged this kind of money, I wouldn't ask for one.
Yeah.
I'd
And
wait
that's
until I
why,
was going to close in my house and deal with it then.
yep. So it's like,
I would proactively do it if I got to cost me $500.
so I've been,
just
I've
wouldn't
been
do it.
trying to take on, yeah, that's, you know, trying to take on more. And I definitely think we have an ability to, you know, unfortunately the 40B stuff with Laura's time doesn't look like that's going to let up anytime soon, for better or worse. So, you know, if reining in the review that Lucas does is one option, that's definitely something that, maybe I can put together some sort of like standardized procedures, kind of like based on project type, you know, if it's an addition versus new construction, you know, we have different in-depth requirements. And if we want to request more during the hearing, then that's another discussion. But at least for the initial, they hit X, Y, and Z on these applications, but X, Y, Z, and A, you know, on the others.
Yeah, depending on what the ask is, right?
Yep.
You know, not you know, one shirt fits all, right?
Mhm.
It's there's different sizes of shirts here, so you know, and with the initial fee paid is basically one shirt fits all, and the result is that the peer review cost is all over the map based on what they're finding and doing. So maybe we need to provide better guidance to them on what they need to be looking for.
Yeah, and I've tried, you know, the way that they bill us is they bill us per hours, you know, based on the application. So, and then they do it monthly. You know, so it's, to Mark's point, it's sometimes difficult when we get that bill, but we don't expect another 7 hours of review to have been done. And it's kind of, yeah, I don't know where to go. So I think.
And then go back to the applicant saying, oh, by the way, you
Yeah.
know, we really scrutinized this, so your wetland was off 6 inches here, 2 feet there, and they don't care and it doesn't impact the project, then, you know, why does anybody care?
Mhm. Okay.
I guess
That's my thoughts.
sort of on the other side of things, it sounds like some of the collections activity is burdensome. You said you've gotten some nasty correspondence. Just sort of thinking out loud. While I know it's made clear within our application materials, perhaps even having a separate form that an applicant fills out with an RDA, an NOI, a COC that addresses the fee paid for a peer review, you know, depending on the materials submitted, and the completeness of the work may increase, and the applicant undersigned here agrees to pay any difference on that one sheet of paper, so that when you have to send correspondence out, you can accompany it with the document that they've signed, and it may help spur things along a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. We did something similar for the legal ad authorization, just as a random back fact, because the newspaper now bills them directly. And it's, while we tell them in advance and they sign the paper, they still don't always kind of recognize it, but it's the same kind of concept. At least they kind of have some sort of knowledge and they've acknowledged it.
Okay, no, the vet just made me sign something very similar to that when I brought my dog in, and if there's gonna be something extra that happens, you're gonna agree to pay it, or, so that's where I got the idea.
I like that idea, but I do think as a consumer, I'd be asking, is there a maximum? Like, what are we talking about?
It's a tough situation, especially for a homeowner, when in many ways it's sort of out of their hands. They have some control over it, but they have consultants performing work that they may not be super familiar with and have difficulty engaging. And yet the way it works, the consumer is on the hook for the bill. I agree with you. I don't know what the best solution to that is, Melinda.
I'm not sure either, Ben, but I do think that some of these numbers get really big. And I think if you knew at the outset, that would be what you'd wind up with as a bill, it may affect your willingness to even proceed with the project.
All right. So
Yeah,
maybe,
it's not like they get an estimate ahead of time, right? It just builds over time based on what they're finding in the field. It's not like you bring your car into a repair shop and they tell you, okay, you need brakes and this is what it's going to cost you. And you say, okay, I'll accept that bill. This is, they come out and they start looking at things and it grows over time, right? And
yeah. One thing I could kind of push Lucas about a little bit more is if we, I do think the consultant costs might need to increase on some of them, at least the NOIs for like new single family homes, things like that. But maybe we have a better discussion with Lucas about exactly kind of what you're talking about in terms of a cap of, okay, here is the fee, based on the average number of hours. If you are to go above this number of hours, you need to, run it by me so that we can get the funds previously before authorizing them to continue. I think that's kind of how it used to be done, but just with the number of applications we've been getting, it's kind of just, they take them in a bunch and try and review them, kind of at the same time. But that might be another alternative that's kind of what Fuss and O'Neill does. We have a set fee structure and they don't go over it. Sometimes they've even eaten cost by a couple $100s for a peer review even. But if they need supplemental, they reach out to me, they give me a task authorization with a scope, an expected price. And then I receive the peer review check and I sign off and then they're allowed to continue. So that's another option. We can try and formalize that more moving forward for some of these applications too.
maybe it's just having a discussion with Chris Lucas, right? Bring him in and say, hey, look, this is what we found, right? For residential permits, look at all the red here.
Yeah.
And see if we can work out a solution with them because, what I wouldn't want to do is say, okay, and like your Fuss and O'Neill description to say, okay, well, here's where we're at. And they say, well, if you're not going to fund this, we don't recommend you move forward to this file. We're done. Right. That's not a good place to be. Right. So there's got to be something here that we can work out with them to basically say that instead of them keep coming back and dipping into the well, that we get to a certain point where for a NOI for a swimming pool at a house or something like that, this is what the standard fee is. Something like that, regardless of what they have to do. And if it's, to delineate a wetland for recording purposes, then that's a bigger deal, right? You've got to dig soil samples, you've got to move flags around, you got to get the wetland scientists involved and all that kind of stuff. That's different. But, if we're just trying to help a homeowner with a new shed, a deck or something like that, having these fees start to get into the thousands is, in my opinion, a problem.
Yeah, that's why I try, and leverage the other, the bylaw fee that they've submitted. I usually include that too, which for an RDA is like $25. So it really doesn't do anything. Not saying I want to raise that, but to the peer review cost, it doesn't really take anything off. So, I think it's definitely, Mark, having conversation with Chris. I can see if he's available at the next meeting. and or if we still want to have kind of a separate meeting to talk about this kind of administrative stuff aside from hearings, I can try and schedule that too.
You
in the
know, if people are willing, that's probably the better path to take, having a separate meeting with him from a
Yeah.
business perspective
Yeah.
instead of tying it to a public hearing.
Okay.
You know, set a meeting. So that's my 2 cents.
How's everyone else feeling about that? Would you be willing to have a separate meeting in the next, I'll say couple months, not immediately, not before the next meeting? Because that
I-
never works out with me with scheduling.
I would be, we have a family vacation coming up towards the end of August, which would get in the way, but outside of that, I'll make it work.
Yeah, I have the same. I'm heading to Maine on the 9th of August for 2 weeks.
Nice.
I
Well,
will be
I'll-
back on the 22nd though. For that
You
meeting, I
bet.
will be back.
120 is finally coming. You have to be there.
What's coming?
Okay. 120 Turnpike is finally coming. You have to
Oh.
be there.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
And hopefully we'll have Sherry too. So that would be a nice, because we
There you
haven't
go.
had any public hearings. So technically she can start right then and there.
Yep.
All right. So I'll send you guys out some proposed dates closer to the end of August, maybe early September, to talk about this. Maybe the next agenda item and the other one, just to kind of help speed things along a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
I'm starting to get a bad rap here because we're getting past 9 o'clock and Ben runs a much more efficient meeting than I do. All right, so I don't know what land use rules is about.
Sure. So that's something that I've been thinking of. As Kevin is woefully aware, we've been having this lovely encroachment at Breakneck Hill from an abutter on Woodland Road. They are mowing a part of the field behind their home, and we've sent multiple letters. We've put up post chains, posted signs. I don't know if we got trail cams up. Kevin, do you know if Brett ever put those up? I don't think
Brett
so.
said that Brett put one out, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten any results from it.
Well, we've gotten videos from the neighbor, you know, on the weekends when they're out there mowing. So they used to drive their, you know, ride-on mower through, then we put the posts and the chains, and now they have a push mower that they somehow gotten over there. So this, you know, we've talked with the chief of police. They have to like be called when it's happening, and it has to be clear that they're doing a destruction of property, and it's just never worked out with the timing because it's always on the weekend. So that being said, a recent topic in one of my mass conservation professional groups was about land use rules and how to deal with this type of thing and what other communities do. And I found that a lot of communities have basic kind of conservation land use rules for all their conservation properties. And most of these include a possibility of fine for encroachment. And I don't know how this year has turned into the year of fines. It just seems to be people are stubborn this year. So it seems to be that would be the only thing to get their attention. And I'm not doing this specifically for that abutter and looking more into it. This would, you know, affect Breakneck Hill. We could have something specific to Breakneck Hill because we already have land use rules there, but this would be kind of a supplement onto. But then also the rest of our properties that we have care and control of. So it's, you know, simple things as like open dawn to dusk, you know, no dumping, etc. Things we kind of already have, but never been compiled. So if the commission is open, I was thinking of drafting, you know, kind of a conservation land use rules for general, you know, management of our properties and allowances, but also including that section about fines to deal with encroachment. It just gives us a little bit more teeth. It gives us a different avenue to be able to try and get their attention a little bit better. Not that I want to fine them, but I think they need to understand that it is serious and they are causing a destruction of property, especially in that one instance I mentioned. But, you know, we kind of have been trying to include monitoring of some of our other properties, and there's, you know, small encroachments here and there. Sometimes it's just leaf litter. Sometimes they have very much extended the backyard. So it gives us a little bit more organization and procedure to deal with these encroachments holistically across town instead of kind of like, oh, well, we do something here, but a little bit different over here, which might be fine when it's Breakneck Hill and the rest of them, but the rest of them should at least match. So just want to get general thoughts if it's something you guys were interested in. And if so, I can start to put together at least the common ones I found, but I put, I think 5 or 6 towns on the SharePoint of ones that I found that seemed pretty similar to properties that we have here and how they manage them.
I really like this idea. I think we definitely need to have this spelled out, what is and is not allowed. And I'm grateful that you want to spend some time putting together an appropriate list for consideration. I will say one of the things I struggle a little bit is the fines, just because what happens if you don't pay a fine? I think Ben describes this other process where we're trying to get somebody to do something that costs money, and then maybe in time the fines can be deferred to help pay for the cost of what we actually want them to do. This is just more assessing a fine. Is there an enforcement need, and who enforces, and how does that work in other towns?
It can work similarly to how we do enforcement orders under the Wetlands Protection Act, or kind of like similar to what we're doing for 200 Southville Road, where we're kind of doing a demand notice and injunction. A lot of this, especially in certain circumstances when it's like a more destruction of property, that's when town council can get a little bit more involved and take it that way. When it's just, small incremental little areas, I did do a training recently for kind of enforcement and ticketing and like what your avenues and options are, and some are, you could issue a ticket and then bring them to the district court and ask them to log it, and then that kind of puts it in the system and they have to pay it that way. I guess you get quite an eye roll if you bring your stack of tickets to the courts, because it's tedious for them to log them in, but that's kind of one option. But that only gets the ticket paid. It doesn't necessarily get compliance, to your point. So in terms of compliance, I think it's just following the procedures that we kind of do already for wetland violations, following up, trying to discuss, and then, if necessary, bringing in town council for that sort of line, depending on how egregious the violation is. Does that answer kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that's always difficult, because I think there will be people who, particularly by conservation land, I've seen it. I've seen people who've set up little fire pit areas on land that's adjacent to their house, and it's on conservation land, but you'd think it was part of their yard. So I do think that there is a need to put things in writing about what is considered not an appropriate use of land that is public land. And I think that's a great start. And I think that your research into ways to pursue the enforcement will be helpful.
Absolutely.
So they were mowing this with a riding mower, and then there was some deterrent put up, and now they are bringing a push mower over there.
Yes.
Oh,
They're resilient.
I guess they are.
And
And
to speak for stewardship, they've been a little combative when we've tried to just talk with them, or when we've come down from the hill. I know Joyce specifically has been screamed at by the neighbors, thinking that she tried to explain its habitat, etc. But they don't, I don't know if it was the worry about ticks or something, but they don't appreciate the natural grasslands back there.
Wow. So I will say the use of trail cams, I find intriguing. And if we were able to identify those people who leave full bags of dog excrement on the sides of the trail.
Oh my God, really?
Institute a seriously draconian punishment for that involves public humiliation. It's so disgusting. I see it at the Beals property, Breakneck Hill. It's just revolting. If you're gonna fill the bag up, just carry it with you. Gosh.
I know. It
Well,
kills me.
So,
They went the effort to bag it,
Yeah.
but then nothing.
so one way you solve that is you take that bag, you find out who put it there, you put it on their front porch and light it on fire. Then they come out and they step on it.
Yeah.
So-
Mark,
But-
Freddie does have her hand up if you wanted me to allow her to speak, just FYI.
With respect to what topic?
Probably the encroachment or the
Okay,
land use rules.
okay. Very quickly, though, we have another topic we have to discuss.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that the Breakneck Hill Conservation Land has rules that include, and they're posted, and they're on the website as well, but they include not, you know, doing exactly what this abutter's doing. You can't disturb the, plant materials. I don't exactly know how it is written, but, so it's not like it needs a new rule. And this isn't just a little bit of mowing beyond his property line. And he's actually, don't know which person did it, because we don't have a trail cam up there. We do have video from a neighbor showing him. It's a large portion of land behind his home, but additionally up, I don't know why or when, up on the, where we have trails, end up looking like, instead of a trail, they end up looking like a runway at Logan Airport. And then another area where we have habitat, the trails are so wide on the side that the habitat in the middle, it's a little small meadow, is basically not there anymore. I mean, significant damage. And, you know, between the letters that Melissa has sent and trying to be proactively nice, that's why I think, you know, something more is needed. It's not your standard, just somebody doing a little encroachment or a little bit beyond their yard. Has been significant. So, thank you.
So they're not just mowing a little bit in their backyard, they're really going everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
But yeah, like Freddie mentioned, there's existing rules. So this would, you know, that's why I kind of was talking about if we want to have a Breakneck Hill specific one and then the rest of the Concom land, so we can build on the existing rules to add in that, you know, supplemental enforcement action.
No, I agree. A uniform set of rules for town space.
yeah,
Six.
I agree, it should be uniform.
Okay.
Okay, I see Chestnut Hill Farm discussion and management plan.
Yes. So they cannot be here tonight as they have their own meeting, but I forwarded out the complete compiled management plan as submitted to us by the trustees, with the farming discussion as an addendum. I was talking with DA at the trustees and suggested possibly a standalone meeting to discuss this, because I know members of open space had some concerns still with this. And I think the commission wanted to kind of speak a little bit more with the trustees on the content. I also put in the SharePoint and sent out, I found the original trails plan that was supposed to be recorded in the CR, which was subsequently recorded at a different time for whatever reason, and the original management plan that was signed in 2006 by the Beals. So it kind of shows what the original kind of requirements and what they included in there. I found that that's where they had the use, you know, the use approvals, you know, so they had to submit to the commission. You know, and looking through, there was also things about like their daily programming, you know, the trustees used to give us their kind of rundown and things like that. But it sounds like, you know, they just kind of wanted the farming as an addendum. And then if they were to ever go back to agricultural and farming, they would come back to the commission to kind of discuss that. And if we needed to update, we would. So I guess if any of you had looked at it, had any initial comments, and if you guys were also okay with maybe setting a designated meeting for this. Yeah.
So when you say ever go back to farming, I thought that they were going to go back to farming at some point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, when they do, so if they ever get back to
Okay.
that point where, they're gonna go full gusto, I think the intent was that they would come before the commission and update them. Ensure that their proposed farm plan was still within their scope, or if something needed to be changed. I know specifically we've been concerned about the grazing within the bobolink habitat, so making sure that there is no grazing in there during specific times during breeding. Because they were, they at least agreed for the mowing, not until, what was it, August 15th in the meantime, to allow that to come in. But the real issue, it was when they are farming and the cows are there or livestock is there and they need to graze, and the impacts of that in the earlier season. So it's kind of where we are. Want to see if you had any initial thoughts. I could report back to them in the meantime. But yeah, I think a discussion with the trustees is the best way to kind of put this to bed.
I think that sounds great. And I think, Ben, you suggested at the last meeting, if the select board is interested in participating in a discussion, we could let them know that the conversation is happening, so that everybody has the opportunity to hear what they have to say.
And we're all speaking sort of in the same room, as it were, rather than having these separate conversations that have caused, I think, some confusion.
Right.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, so I guess to your question, Melissa, about setting up a separate, date and time for discussion, is you got your answer.
Yep, got it. Understood.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything that jumps out to you guys in the meantime about the plan? Not to put you on the spot. Okay. A lot of it's stuff you've already seen. It's just fine, kind of put together.
I've never seen the trail plan, so that's
Oh,
interesting.
except for that, yes. I thought it was going to be more. I don't know. When I looked at it, it was a little disappointing that was the missing trails. But okay, cool. I will work on that. And that'll be it. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll give you a quick update on the dump. So we are third on the warrant for the fall town meeting for the additional money for the dump. I'm working with town council for the change order. It seems like we have all the documents we need from the contractor, engineer, and DEP to move forward. I still need to get DEP a schedule of when we think we're going to get restarted and finished. I've been waiting for the town administrator to approve the next phases for our engineer to get started, because there's probably at least 4 weeks of administrative work and plan updates that they need to do because of the change in the access and the asbestos updates. So I got confirmation via email that Mark, the town administrator, was okay with it, but I still need that signed copy, so I'm on him about that. So at least we are making progress. And town meeting asking for another 2.1 million will be fun. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, it is a big ouch, but thankfully all parties seem to be in agreement. This is the plan forward. We looked at all the alternatives. Capping would be the same cost, if not more, in the long run, and you would have to excavate the same amount just to get the ducts. So it's kind of all a wash. So rather get everything out and be done with it, and have a clean slate, and the property can be restored, no use limitations. That's
So
where we are.
if we have a vote this fall at town meeting, would we be able to complete the cleanup before winter?
Yes, it sounds like yes. I couldn't say that we would be completely stabilized by winter, depending on the seasons, but it sounds like the excavation at least would be completed. We do have a restriction of 300 tons per day, but they can easily, in quick succession, get that out of there. So I'm trying very hard to get the change order finished so that we can put in the new access road, do what we need to. We have to cap a water line as they have to drive over it. So there's some, work that I want to get done before September. There's a possibility of even getting some of the excavation done before September, because I have funds left from the original approval, since we didn't really spend the bulk of it, since we only cleared about a third of it out. So I'm trying best as I can to have us set up at least to start as soon as we have that money allocated, if not before, in the meantime, to get some done.
And the last time I think that you and I spoke about it, I don't think it was in front of the big group. I was asking you about the plans for restoring vegetation once it's all done.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that's something we're really going to be needing to work hand in hand with stewardship on. And that the funding may not be necessarily in place for all the things we'll need to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have the warrant article is for the 2.1 million, which is just for the extra costs in the excavation. That is for our worst case scenario of 10,000 tons. Our contractor thinks there's 5,000 tons left. Our engineer has highly suggested we plan for 10. So we're very much hoping that there is some, and the warrant article is worded as such that any costs incidental to, which would include restoration. So if there are funds left from the warrant article that's approved at town meeting, we can transfer those over to the restoration part. But the restoration planning kind of won't happen until we get the excavation out and we kind of see what's underneath and see what we're left with, to see what we need to bring it for a grade, etc. So it's definitely going to be working close with stewardship, and it's going to be a very fluid kind of project in terms of the restoration, most likely, because we'll kind of have to assess once we're done, and hopefully quickly kind of try and get that wrapped up.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business for tonight? No?
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Osmata.
Yes. All right,
Have a wonderful
Good
night,
night, all.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Melissa.
everybody.
Bye.
bye.